My name is Delaney Marsh, and I'm 24 years old. I remember the exact moment my life split into two: the person I thought I was and the person the financial system had already decided I was. I was 23, sitting in a leasing office with a rental application in my hand, excited about my first apartment. It was a modest place, nothing fancy, just mine. The leasing agent typed my name into her system, glanced at the screen, and then her expression shifted. Not dramatically, not with alarm, just that quiet professional freeze that people do when they're about to deliver news they don't want to deliver. She slid the paper back across the desk without a word and said, "I'm so sorry, but we can't approve this application." I asked why. She turned the monitor toward me. My credit score was 94. Not 640, not even 400, 94. And attached to my social security number was $340,000 in business debt, loans, unpaid vendor contracts, tax liens, all registered under my name. I was 23 years old. I had never signed a single business document in my life. I drove home in a fog so thick I don't remember traffic lights. When I got to my apartment, the one I was still renting with a roommate because I'd been saving up to go solo, I sat on the bathroom floor and pulled up every credit monitoring app I could find. The picture that assembled itself over the next 2 hours was something out of a nightmare. A business had been registered in my name in the state of Ohio when I was 14 years old, a cleaning and property maintenance company. It had operated for nearly 6 years, taken out multiple business loans, accumulated unpaid payroll taxes, defaulted on supplier agreements, and quietly dissolved, leaving behind a financial crater with my name stamped across every inch of it. I hadn't known, not a whisper, not a hint. For 9 years, I had been the legal face of a business I didn't know existed. And then I saw the registered agent's address on the original filing documents. It was my childhood home. I called my mother that same evening. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from something I couldn't quite name yet. Something that felt like the ground being pulled out from under every memory I had trusted. I told her what I found. I asked her to explain, and I will never forget what she said. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She laughed, not cruelly, but casually, the way you laugh at something you consider a minor misunderstanding. And she said, "Delaney, family shares everything. Your father and I needed a name for the paperwork. You were our daughter. What's the big deal?" I stayed silent for a long moment. Then I said, "Mom, I'm $340,000 in debt at 23, and I just got denied my first apartment." She told me I was being dramatic. She said families help each other. She said I should talk to my father and calm down before I did something I'd regret. I didn't calm down. What I did instead was spend the next 4 days pulling every document I could legally access. I requested my full credit report from all three bureaus. I filed a dispute flagging fraudulent accounts. I contacted the Ohio Secretary of State's office and requested the original business registration records. And when those records arrived and I saw my own name signed, apparently in my own handwriting, on documents dated when I was a freshman in high school, I understood the full scope of what had been done. Someone had forged my signature. Someone had used my social security number without my knowledge or consent. Someone had built a business on the legal identity of a child and walked away when it collapsed, leaving that child, now a young woman with dreams and savings and a rental application, to carry the wreckage alone. That someone was my parents. I made 2 phone calls that week. The first was to the IRS Taxpayer Advocate Service. The second, and this is the one that changed everything, was to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, followed by a direct call to my local FBI field office to report identity theft and financial fraud committed by a family member. The agent who answered didn't treat me like I was overreacting. She treated me like someone who had just reported a crime, because I had. The FBI case number they gave me felt both terrifying and grounding at the same time, like finally having proof that what happened to me was real, that it was wrong, and that the world outside my family's version of reality agreed. The agent assigned to my case was a woman named Special Agent Whitfield, and she was methodical, calm, and completely unmoved by the fact that the subjects of the investigation were my own parents. She explained to me that what they had done had a name, familial identity theft, and that it was prosecuted the same way any other identity theft was prosecuted, regardless of the relationship between victim and perpetrator. She told me to stop contacting my parents about the matter entirely. She told me to save every text, every voicemail, every email, and she told me to get an attorney. I did all 3 within the same week. The months that followed were the loneliest of my life. I want to be honest about that because I think people expect a story like this to be clean. The villain is punished, the hero is vindicated, and everything resolves with satisfying neatness. But the reality of fighting your own parents through federal channels is that You spend most of it sitting alone in a studio apartment you finally managed to rent after submitting a sworn affidavit of fraud to the leasing company, eating cereal for dinner, and trying to remember who you were before you knew any of this. My brother stopped speaking to me within the first month. 2 aunts sent me messages calling me a traitor. My father left a voicemail, the last one I ever saved, telling me I was destroying the family over paperwork. I kept going anyway. The IRS investigation moved separately from the FBI case, but ran parallel to it. Because the business had accumulated significant unpaid payroll taxes during its operation, the IRS was already interested long before I ever called them. They simply hadn't been able to locate the responsible party efficiently, because the business had dissolved without proper closure. My attorney helped me file an injured spouse and innocent spouse claim, and more critically, helped me establish, through documentation, school attendance records, report cards, a notarized statement from my high school counselor, confirming I was a full-time enrolled student at the time the business was registered, that I could not have been a willing participant in its formation or operation. The forgery analysis conducted on the original registration documents confirmed it. The signature that appeared under my name on those papers was not mine. My parents were formally charged 14 months after I made that first FBI call. The charges included identity theft, wire fraud, tax evasion, and fraudulent use of a minor's social security number. My father pleaded guilty to 2 counts in a negotiated agreement. My mother went to trial. I did not testify in person. My attorney submitted a victim impact statement on my behalf, and I gave a recorded deposition that was used during proceedings. My mother was convicted on 3 counts. Their sentencing happened on a Tuesday morning in November, and I watched the live stream alone in my apartment with a cup of coffee I never actually drank. By the time it was over, the IRS had removed the fraudulent tax liens from my record. My credit bureaus, after receiving the official case documentation, cleared the fraudulent accounts. My credit score climbed from 94 to 7 in 10 within 8 months of the fraud determination being finalized. The $340,000 in debt that had been assigned to my name, the debt that had nearly buried me before I even had a chance to start, was legally detached from my identity and reassigned to the actual responsible parties. I am 24 now. I have a credit card with a reasonable limit that I pay off every month. I have a savings account that is actually growing. I have an apartment with my name on the lease, my real name, belonging to me, with no ghost business attached to it. I have a therapist I see every other week who is helping me grieve something complicated, not just what was done to me, but the version of my parents I believed in for 23 years before I found out who they actually were. I don't tell this story for sympathy. I tell it because I was 23 years old, sitting on a bathroom floor, convinced I had somehow failed financially before I even started. And the truth was that I had been robbed quietly and completely by the 2 people who were supposed to protect me. If you are sitting with a credit report that doesn't make sense, with debt that doesn't match your life, with numbers that feel like they belong to someone else's story, please look closer. Pull every document. Ask every question. Do not let anyone, not a stranger, not a friend, not a parent, tell you that what you are feeling is dramatic. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to report a crime, even when the criminal shares your last name. It took me 14 months to get my name back. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Revenge Realm Empire. We post stories like this every single week. Drop a comment below. Would you have made that call too? See you in the next one.